Good evening, my lovelies. How are we?
How are we doing, everyone?
Welcome to another week, Tash, of Paranormal Pals podcast.
Yes. So what are we discussing this week?
We are discussing paranormal TV shows, paranormal YouTube channels, and paranormal debunking channels. Because unfortunately, that has become a necessity in the paranormal entertainment field, unfortunately. So we'll wait until a few more people are on. Who's on anyway?
Lois and Stephen.
Oh, yay, Stephen. Howdy doody, Steves. Evening, Lo. How are you? I hope you've had a good week. Tasha's doing the typing. Yay.
Is my typing really loud?
Yeah, I can hear click, 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 click. I guess you're the third person in that case, Tash. Oh, gone down to 2 again. All right. So what I thought we'd do is we have a whole bunch of paranormal TV programs that we have put into a document that we're going to discuss. And we're going to discuss who was in them. Now, the surprising thing when I did this, it was really interesting, to be quite honest, was I found the amount of people that had been on one paranormal TV program had filtered through to another one 4 years later, that had filtered through to another one another 3 years later. So it seems that there's a bit of, I don't know what you would call it, paranormal.
Probably crossover.
Yeah,
because often they don't get renewed for multiple seasons. There's a few, but maybe it's because your favorite one ran out and you're looking for the next thing to watch, or just trying new things out.
But it shows I think it shows a very clear indication that the powers that be are looking for people who have already been on a paranormal TV program to put into another paranormal TV program. So you've got to have some, and I've had a producer in New Zealand tell me this, that they look for people who have some form of experience of already being in a program before they decide who's going to be in the new one that they're talking about, which is kind of a bit weird.
Well, if you really like that program, then they have like this pull effect, so you can pull people over to the new program and make it popular.
And that's
if it's not popular, then they won't renew the season, or you get like one episode and one pilot. And that's it.
And that's exactly what she said to me. Was we look for a that's what she said. They look for a lineage, if you like, of previous paranormal programming before they decide to feature someone in a paranormal program, because it's a draw card. If you've been in one, you're going to be drawed card to the other, and it's all about ratings, right? At the end of the day. But here we go.
Stephen has a comment.
Yep.
It's kind of weird because there's multiple people who say yes, he did, and then there's multiple people in the business that said no, he didn't. He doesn't have that much power. So we don't really know what to believe, really. I think
I've actually done a pretty deep dive into this, and yes and no. Okay, so there was a takeover that happened within Sky on certain channels. And I guess depending on what that person believes that's at the head of that channel, I mean, if they're a hardcore Christian and they don't believe this sort of thing, they're going to start chopping. I mean, let's think about it logically, right? However, we know a lot of programs got chopped and they were getting massive views. So that's what I'm going to put that down to. However, there is, I would say there is evidence to suggest that a certain person, particular person, who is a producer of multiple, and I'll say multiple as in more than one paranormal show, did actually, how can I put this? Exert pressure upon the network to ensure other programs didn't go the distance. We have had Nick Roth pipe up and say that he was told quite categorically that he wasn't required any longer. We've also had investigators that have attended Bobby Mackey's that have commented to the owner, how come there's loads of photos of Nick all around the place, but there's none of Zach? And the response was, you don't get to tell me who comes in this place and who doesn't.
Fortunately, you can't do that anymore.
Well, since it's been pulled down. I think that's pretty telling, to be quite honest, in itself. You have also, I can't remember the man's name, Bill something or other, that was on Ghosts of Shepherdstown. We'll talk about it shortly. He actually also said all of a sudden the program was cut and they were told they're not welcome back. They're going to do the same sort of program, but they're going to replace everybody in it, which then came out it was Ghosts of Morganstown. You've had Dakota Layden, who used to be a particular investigator / producer's cameraman, turn around and say that their program was cancelled, not really alluding to the reasons why, but the producer on that program was Zach Bagans. Now, Dakota Layden was a cameraman on Ghost Adventures, and then he actually became the lead investigator, if you want to put it that way. He started producing Destination Fear, and Zach was the producer of that program. Now, that program started getting massive amounts of views, and then all of a sudden that program's canned.
Yeah.
So when we're talking,
he did come out afterwards and say that categorically it wasn't due to that particular producer. But it could have been a network thing. But they didn't say why. He did categorically say that it wasn't because of that producer.
He did in his second video that he put out. Yeah. The thing is that networks don't cancel programs that are doing well. They just don't, because there's views behind those programs. There's millions of people that watch it. And in this day and age with streaming, with YouTube, all the rest of it, Sky and the likes don't want to be cancelling programs that are doing well, because guess what? These programs go elsewhere. Hang on. Lois goes, Destination Fear was good. I loved watching that. I did.
Each their own.
It's now become Project Fear, and now that they've got no one controlling them, the screaming, the yelling, and the overexcitedness has just gone off the Richter scale, and I cannot watch them. They're like a bunch of 12-year-olds, and they
I'd
should know
say
better because they're not.
their latest program is they're more paranormal enthusiasts than investigators. Like
Absolutely.
they don't tend to put cameras everywhere, and it may be because they don't have a big production team now. They really overreact over the tiniest thing, and instead of running towards it, they're running and screaming away, which is the complete opposite of when you're trying to investigate something. If something weird is happening, you generally go towards it and you try and either debunk or capture some sort of evidence of what's happening. I do watch it occasionally, but the screaming does get a bit old. And the stupid bits that they do, like in the car when they go to the place, kind of really detracts from some of the places that they go to as well. I feel like that's a little bit disrespectful historically to some of these places where people are like mistreated, or even the historical place. But as long as the historical place gets more views from it, then I guess it's okay, as long as they get some money out of it.
Yep, no, I probably agree with you on that, Tash. So let's go to our schedule, if you like. So the first thing I wanted to talk about was if you are having issues with having to buy streaming subscriptions and all the rest of it, don't even bother about it. In New Zealand, we're really lucky at the moment, and if people don't utilize this, it will disappear. But we're really lucky at the moment that we have what is called a TV3 Now app that you can download to your phones. I don't know about your TV. I don't have a TV where I can download stuff to it that I'm aware of.
I think you can stream on the TV, because I've watched other like TVNZ and that TVNZ Plus.
Right.
But maybe you could put a link below on some of the streaming platforms.
Well, the only one that I know of that's completely free is the TV3 Now app.
Yeah,
now,
maybe we could point people in that direction.
If you go on to your phone and you download the TV3 Now app, there is depends on what kind of phone you've got. Sometimes it's up the top, sometimes it's down the bottom, but there is a live TV icon. And if you click on that live TV icon, there will be a heap of channels, right? Scroll right down towards the bottom and you will see WB Paranormal Channel. Now, this is a paranormal channel that runs 23 hours a day with paranormal content, different paranormal programs, and it just loops from the evening to the daytime. And then it changes to the next episode once it's done its 23-hour loop, it'll change to the next episode. I watch this every single night in bed on my phone. And while I used to hate and refused to watch anything on my phone, I've now become quite accustomed to it because that's the only way I could get it. There's some great programs on there, and it doesn't cost you anything to watch at all.
If you want to be fancy, you can actually on most like Sony and most smart TVs now, you can broadcast to a TV. So from your phone, if the app's not available.
Yeah, the TV3 app doesn't allow me to broadcast to my TV, unfortunately.
I think it's based on your phone, so you can select to connect to your TV and you can watch it on the TV.
Yeah, I've done that, and it still won't come up. It says TV3 Now app does not support this at this time, so I'm not sure what that's all about.
So I presume to download the app, you'd have to go to the Google Play Store if you have I'm a bit blurry. If you have an Android phone, and then the Apple Store, if it's available on the Apple Store. Don't know if it would be or not if you've got an iPhone. So maybe we can put some links in, just so people can click on it. I might have a look at my smart TV and see if I can pick it up.
Okay, cool.
Later,
because I mean, the thing is, if we don't watch it, guess what's going to happen? It's going to go.
I mean, yeah. because there was like really awesome channels on Sky because of where I live. Not now, but when we first moved into a house, I'm in a small rural town in a river valley, so normal TV wouldn't work. So we got Sky. So luckily for us, we had like the sci-fi channel, and there was a ghost channel as well, which was similar to the Warner Brothers one that just played paranormal TV all the time. But now you're lucky to watch 2 or 3 shows after about 10 o'clock.
Well, the thing was that the Warner Brothers took over a lot of these paranormal channels. Things like everything that was on the Travel Channel moved off and it went to another channel. And then Warner Brothers came in and they took over a lot of these channels. And this channel in New Zealand has arisen from that. So, guys, we need to watch it. Otherwise, if we don't watch it, they're going to go, well, no one is interested in this stuff in this country. We'll just get rid of it. So that's the first thing I wanted to say. If we're going to go through the schedule that I wrote up and sent to Tash, the first one, and I've done it in a yearly, year by year list, starting with the oldest first. I don't know if, and there would probably be hardly any people that have seen this, and it used to be on, Christ, what was that channel? It was our 5th TV channel, Tash. And then it moved to Sky. It began with a P. Christ.
Ponamu? I don't know.
No, I can't remember.
I can't remember the name. I can't remember.
But the program was in 2002, and the program was called Scream Team.
Kelly Bell.
Prime. Thank you. Yeah. Thank you, Kelly. Absolutely. That was it. Prime. It was on Prime, and it was called Scream Team, and it was 6 young people in the UK that had been chosen from over 800 hopeful people to go out and investigate the most haunted and historic locations across the UK. They went out in a large camper van, and the creators described it as a cross between the Blair Witch Project and Scooby-Doo. There's one episode on YouTube, and while the picture is horrifically grainy and pixelated, it's definitely still worth watching, but that is not the best episode that they aired. Unfortunately, I can't find any other episodes of it, but it was really a really, really cool program. Now, this was just 6 different people, young 20-somethings, that were chosen from 800. They had no particular talents at all, but throughout the process of it, there was one girl that sort of found herself beginning to become a sensitive, and a lot of what she ended up spewing out at the locations became quite true. Unfortunately, because of that and the camera being on her, a lot of the other people got a little bit jealous, so you started seeing a little bit of shittiness coming into it. But it was actually a really, really good program, and I used to watch it all the time. It was on at something like 11:30 at night.
I think it's a copycat. There's one called MTV Fair, which is similar. They put random people in paranormal places and try and freak them out. Like just general public investigators. Yeah, that was 2000. There was also an Australian one. I'm trying to think of the name, where they put random people in paranormal spooky places, made up a big backstory and stuff, and would actually try and freak them out with props and things. I can't remember what the name of it was. But yeah, there's a whole bunch of them that are around.
Do you want to take the next one, Tash?
Yeah, Most Haunted. With a
Same
vet.
year, 2002.
Yep. The most interesting thing was the poor, I can't remember if she was the makeup artist or the hairstylist. I think she was the makeup artist. And she just used to scream the whole time. They used to put her in the most dark, dank, spooky places around England. And this poor lady who just does their makeup, just terrified the whole time. And it had like
That's right.
various different psychics like Derek, and a whole bunch of them. I think they were caught cheating with rocks. Someone was throwing rocks in a particular place, and that. But I mean, if you watch the program, it's very very dated now. It's still fun to watch, but I wouldn't classify it as investigating at all. I'd say it was just entertainment value only.
It's very dated. But they still are going on YouTube, believe it or believe it not. And the program itself was, you had Yvette Fielding, who was a former TV presenter of Blue Peter, which is a UK children's program. You had her husband.
Now on a pirate ship.
Yeah, exactly. You had her husband, Carl Beatty. And you had Stuart Torval, who was the cameraman, Kieran O'Keefe, who was the parapsychologist. You had loads of guest psychics on, but Derek Akora was the resident psychic for a very, very long time. Now, there are so many episodes that have come out and been showcased on YouTube where they have categorically found them faking.
Yeah.
I've actually seen it on an episode myself, and I watched the episode on YouTube and I tried to find it a year later and it had been removed. And one of the debunkers had said they were removing all the episodes where they'd been caught faking. Excuse me. So that would explain why I couldn't find it again. Yeah. But Derek Akora's most famous episode is where he allegedly gets possessed or taken over or channeled, and he goes, "Mary loves Dick. Mary loves Dick."
I remember that. I was like, how appropriate is that?
And apparently they dared him to say it, and there is, and I've seen video footage of it, there is the lead up to that being said, and they're all cracking up, and Yvette goes, "I dare you, I dare you, I dare you."
Yeah, I guess most paranormal entertainment has some form of a psychic or somebody, but you kind of have to, take everything with a grain of salt, because you don't know how much information they've been given beforehand. They might say, "Oh, no, we didn't disclose the situation in this place." But it appears that, even if they're like remote channeling, you don't really know how much information's been given to them behind the scenes, because everything's cut and packaged neatly in post-production.
Well, as Stephen says, Kieran O'Keefe dropped fake hints to Derek Akora. What happened was, and the story goes, and I've got on really good authority, that the story goes, they were in a room discussing stuff, but they made sure that Derek Akora could hear. And the stuff was that Creed Kafer was one of the spirits at the location. Now, Creed Kafer was a personality, if you like, that Kieran O'Keefe made up, and it was an anagram for Derek Faker. So
it was an inside joke.
Yeah. So then when Derek went on camera, and started going, Creed, Creed, Creed Kiefer, like that. He was banged to bloody rights because that was completely made up. So that's only a couple of instances. There's been other instances. I've seen them when they've said a chair got thrown, and I've seen a shadow on a wall picking up the chair and throwing it. That's off camera, but the shadow has been projected onto the wall. That's the one I can't find on YouTube anymore.
Sure, it's not a shadow person?
No, definitely not a shadow person. So, yes, we know all that. There's also been a recent, as Kelly says, yeah, Kelly, there's also been a recent video that has been, it's an interview, and you can see the interviewer's face. He's completely like, what? Where Yvette Fielding turns around and says he was a faking bastard. But then we also know that Yvette was a faking bastard as well. So anyway,
we would like to disclose, if you like any of these programs, we're not saying don't watch them. Obviously, they're for entertainment value. And if you disagree with us, pop something in the chat, and we'll have a talk or a chat about it.
Absolutely. I remember my daughter. I had my lounge. She must have just turned 5. And I had my lounge set out in a certain way so that my couch backed to the opening of the hallway. And I was sitting and I was watching Most Haunted. And I hear this little 5-year-old voice turn around and go, oh, they're just scaring each other silly. And that was exactly what I was thinking at the time. But it took a 5-year-old to shock me back into reality and go, check, yep, absolutely.
I mean, we all watch some type of trashy TV. Like one of the latest ones we've picked up is the Secret Lives of Mormon Wives.
Oh no, I don't watch that. I don't watch that.
Bad. But it's so good to watch because it's like, oh, yeah.
So I guess the next one on our list that came out was Ghost Hunters in 2004. So this consisted of Jason Hawes, Grant Wilson, Adam Berry. You'll see Adam Berry's name crop up again. Amy Bruni, her name will crop up again. Chris Williams, her name will crop up again. Dustin Parry and Dave Tango, and quite a few others as well. It was probably rated as one of the most legit programs to this day. Although there is some disputing some particular incidents, should I say?
I'm just going to say I'm not a big fan of Jason Hawes. When I went to America on the Frightfully Good tour, every place pretty much in Rhode Island we went to, and also Massachusetts, he had investigated supposedly and made certain comments about places, which is a bit discouraging to people who actually have to work and live in them. So I'm not a really big fan of him.
Yeah, I have kind of mixed
plus
feelings.
The whole with the lady from the Conjuring house, like, she's mentally ill. Stop fueling the fire. I know she's putting threats on YouTube and stuff, but if you just left
Shut
it alone,
up, Jason.
Yeah,
Shut
just left it alone, there'd be no coverage. But really, I feel that it was to cover up Cody and Satori, the tapping thing, because there was huge
because that all came out, and that was a whole different other kettle of bullshit.
I don't want to do this video, and we're sitting there going, but you're doing it anyway.
Yeah. And I mean, to a certain degree, I understand why he came out with what he came out with, but then he came out again And he came
Yeah.
out again, and he kept giving updates, and he kept giving updates, and he kept giving, and it was just like, stop, bro. We know she's stalking you. We know she's sending you these crazy texts. Just stop. We don't need to keep perpetuating. She's nutty. She needs help. You're not helping. And you know
She needs
what?
help. Yeah.
So many people were saying, do you know what, Jason? If it's this bad, get a restraining order.
Yeah. And then she can't contact you without legal recourse.
And then he goes, oh, but she keeps contacting me, blah, blah, blah.
I
Yeah, whatever.
understand one video addressing some of the accusations, but I would have left it at that. It's like, look, this lady is mentally ill. I'm not going to engage. This is what she said.
Yeah.
It's not true. Yeah.
So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to hide Kelly's comment for the moment because we're not up to the race case yet. And the next one, Paranormal State.
Yeah.
Tash, 2007.
Yeah. So yeah, you got Heather Taddy and Contrita Wildman. Quite a few people that pop up quite often. Oh, and Chip Coffey is the psychic.
Yep, and Ryan Buell and Chad Kalick and Tony Spera. So the list kind of goes on and on. If you don't know who these people are, we'll talk about Ryan Buell in a moment. Heather Taddy, as Tash said, her name's going to crop up again. Katrina Weidman, her name's going to crop up again. She was a trainee on this particular program. Then there
I believe that this was like almost like a college project. Like Katrina and
what it was,
were in college at the time and friends, and that's how they ended up on the show.
Yep, what it was Ryan Buell started a paranormal team from his college, and then it kind of spread. Lorraine Warren was actually on this program as well. She appeared on this program quite often. Not that that's giving it any like or anything like that. We're just relating to you who was in this program. But we'll talk about Ryan Buell in a minute. Chad Kalick has done a lot of documentaries since then, different paranormal documentaries amongst his health issues. And Tony Spera is the son-in-law of Lorraine Warren, who now is the caretaker of all the NESPA, New England Society for Paranormal Research, which Ed and Lorraine used to run. And he is the caretaker of all the artifacts there, including the Annabelle doll, which has just been on tour in the USA, along with Ryan Buell taking it. Now, Ryan Buell, I don't quite know what to say. I don't quite know where to start with Ryan Buell. Took a shit ton of money off a shit ton of people and never showed up for the events. Was subsequently arrested for drugs. And now apparently he's clean and he's back 10 years later and he's back into the paranormal. No, I don't know.
Imagine taking something supposedly as dangerous as Annabelle, which, by the way, they have a replica in the Conjuring house in a glass case.
And incidentally, it says that, and Lorraine said categorically that Annabelle should never be taken out of her case or removed from the position that she's in. And they're taking it off. They're taking her off on a freaking holiday across the United States with more states to become available shortly and more tickets to be sold. Now, I've heard how much these tickets were selling for. I've heard how much how many people attended each particular state event, and we're talking about them having made something like $170,000 so far out of about 2 or 3 states. So that's
Very
kind
lucky
of
doll. I'd
really
love to be possessed and taken across the country.
Yeah, well, I said, isn't it interesting that she gets to go off on a holiday when most Americans can't afford one?
Look, they can't afford the basics, whether it be house care or food at the moment.
Yeah. The next program is Ghost Hunters International, which aired beginning 2008. So it was some of the original Ghost Hunters crew originally, and then there was other people that came in, like Barry Fitzgerald from Ireland, who actually is amazing, and I really rate this guy. Rob Demarest, I really rate this guy too, and his name will crop up again. And there was a whole heap of others like Chris Williams and Donna Lacroix. I can't quite pronounce their name, sorry. Lacroix or whatever it is. And they actually came to New Zealand, and they investigated Lanark Castle, and they investigated Riccarton Racecourse Hotel.
Oh, yeah.
And I think they investigated somewhere else. I will put the link in the description. Just note to self. 1 second. Link to Ghost Hunters International NZ investigations. They literally debunked everything at Lanark Castle, but they did actually find some stuff at the Riccarton Racecourse Hotel.
Cal said that they did Napier Prison, which is
that was the other.
Available. You can't do that anymore.
Was it Napier Prison or was it the other one in Christchurch? It was it was Napier, because the guy who organised it all rang me at the time and told me it was. That's right. No, they had a contact in New Zealand who was Anton. Oh my God.
Doesn't matter.
From Christchurch Paranormal. He was actually a friend of mine. And he rang me asking me if I would go down to Napier Prison to investigate with him for that particular night. I didn't go because it was a long way for one night in my book, and I had a wee baby. So I declined. But yes, it was Napier Prison. You're quite right. No, that wasn't that. Anton Hayrick from Christchurch Paranormal. After that, in 2008, that was when Ghost Adventures first aired. So there was Nick Groff, Aaron Goodwin, and Zach Baggins. And now it's Aaron Goodwin, Zach Baggins, Bill Tolley, and Jay Wolseley. And they have their guest psychic, Patty Negri. But they've had lots of other guest investigators, such as Dave Schrader. Oh God, who's that other
Post
guy?
Malone with the Divic box.
I wouldn't say he's a guest investigator. I'd say he's just a name to get them more doodacky, more exposure. But there was another guy they had.
I wouldn't call anyone on that show an investigator, to be honest.
No, I have to agree.
So,
well, I wouldn't call the 4 of them investigators. And Patty Negri, I'm sorry, I've seen Patty Negri's things, and is all I've got to say. What drugs is she on? The next one, and I have to say, oh my God, I have to say, I don't actually like paranormal TV. I watch it from an entertainment perspective. If you could hear me lying in my bed at night and what I have to say to Ghost Adventures, in fact, I'm going to tape myself, because I'm fucking hilarious. But there's one program where I actually rate them as investigators, and that is Ghost Lab. Now, Ghost Lab cropped up in 2009, and it's Brad and Barry Kling. So they're commonly referred to as the Kling brothers, and they were founders of Everyday Paranormal. And there was people like Katie Burr, Steve Hawk, Steve Harris, Hector Cisneros, and there was other trainees that were involved as well. They did some fantastic actual work investigating and experimentation, taking it to a scientific level. I can't, honestly, I cannot rate them highly enough. You will find them on WB Paranormal TV channel on the TV3 app, but you've got to wait, and you might have to wait for a few months until they come back on again. They've had about 3 or 4 rotations since I've been watching it for a year. 2 years since I've been watching it for 2 years now. But you'll have to wait for them to roll around again. They'll be rolling around again soon. But the evidence that they capture and the experiments that they undertake are next level shit in my book. It's not boring investigating crap. It's actually groundbreaking stuff. Like you know how there's supposedly a connection between spirits and water, for instance. So if you've got water near a location, there's lots of spirits that supposedly turn up. So they take water samples and they get the water samples tested. And they explain to the person who's testing the water samples why they're getting the water samples tested. And this person says the dirtier the water, the higher the magnetism of the water.
Which I guess it would depend on what is in the water, though.
That's the point. That's what they were saying. So it's actually some of the stuff that they go through is really different. It's not your same bullshit running around and investigating. A lot of people don't ascribe to their method of investigating because Barry and Brad can be quite confrontational, but they get results. And that's what it's all about. And they do the experimentation. And they try different things, or they constantly try different things, and they'll go in somewhere and they're getting nothing, and they completely change the game up, and they'll go in differently the next night and they'll get something. And what they get, they might only get 1 or 2 EVPs, or they might only get 1 light anomaly and 1 EVP, and that's all they'll get. But they've got some fantastic, clear Class A AVPs due to the experimentation techniques that they use. So if you can watch it, definitely you won't find it on YouTube, so forget it. But they are probably, if I'm going to rate entertainment and true techniques, like, real paranormal investigating techniques, they're at the top of the threshold from any of these programs that I'm talking about.
And environmental things are very important when you're investigating too.
And that's what they concentrate on.
You need to see if it's environmental or if it's actually paranormal.
You should see these bastards. I'm so jealous. They go, oh, we're just going to dump some environmental data loggers. 22 environmental data loggers later, right throughout the whole building, I'm like, oh, you bastards. But as they said, they had a production company that was throwing money at them. So they had the ability to be able to do that.
Or they could be sponsored by them too. They're like, oh, hey, put this equipment on here and you might sell more units.
The thing is, with Ghost Lab is they used experimental techniques and they actually worked. They actually worked more so than any other team that has been put on our TV screens or our YouTube channels. They were actually breaking ground and they were moving the field forward and how investigations actually occurred. Things like error techniques. They called them error cues. Error as an ERA. Where you dress up in the clothes of the time, you use the words in the clothes of the time of that particular era, where you have music playing for that particular era, all that sort of thing. They created that technique.
Just to promote a response.
Yep.
Yeah.
They created that technique and they got amazing 2 responses when they were at oh Christ, I can't remember the place now, but they were investigating the death of Wild Bill Hickok.
All right.
And they got incredible.
Do we actually know if the EVPs are legit or is it just for entertainment though?
No, they're legit. They're legit. I've looked into that. Yep, they're absolutely legit. They're the only team I have not been, or the only TV team I have not been able to find out any faking on at all.
So moving along from this, we kind of skipped over a very iconic one from New Zealand, Ghost Hunt.
Oh, but they're not fucking investigators.
No, they're not, but it's still paranormal TV.
Well, I suppose it was. What year was that?
2005 to 2006.
2005.
We can actually put a link on there. Someone's actually dubbed them all to YouTube, so you can actually watch. I think there's only like 10 episodes. They're all
on there. They're all on there.
Yeah, but they only did like 10 episodes. But it was probably like the first time you actually saw paranormal investigators actually using, multiple cameras, looking at different environments, and they do quite a few famous locations across New Zealand.
They do, but they're shit investigators.
They're not investigators. It's TV, but it's very interesting watching them because you're like, oh, I know that location. That's just down the road for me. Like one of them was King Seat.
They were the ones that caught old. Supposedly, they caught Mr. Larnock at Larnock Castle. They got a cracking photo of that, of him as a silhouette, apparently. And yes, you're right. We did forget about them. I'm so sorry about that.
It's all right. It's a bit of New Zealand entertainment New Zealand history. I was just thinking, I'm sure that was early.
Awful. Now, that brings us to Tash. After Ghost Lab, what's the next one?
Dead Files, which I can't actually watch. So I can't do it. Because the problem I have is they have this investigator and then they have the psychic. And the psychic always says it's an evil demonic spirit in your house. And it's like, you don't say that to people who have to live in there. And then you either have to get it blessed properly or excised. Otherwise, you can't live here anymore. And it plays on people's emotions. I mean, I think the one I did watch was this lady's brother had died in a tragic car accident or something. And I think it was decapitated or something like that. But he, it was like, why? Why would you say that to somebody when we don't know 100%?
No, I know what you're saying.
Things like ghosts and stuff.
I know, I get you. I totally get you on that one, Score Chick, and I totally agree with you.
You have this ex-New York cop, I think he was, or detective.
Yes, and, so you've got Steve DeShavy, who is a retired homicide detective.
All the information or all the history hasn't been passed on to the psychic.
And then you've got Amy Allen, who's the psychic. Now, this was from 2011. And interestingly enough, I have found a video of Amy Allen before she was a psychic, and she was just a paranormal investigator walking around a property with a feckin' K2 meter in her hand.
As you do.
And that was years before 2011 and years before that particular program came out. So, I mean, it's all right for them, as you say, Tash, it's all right for them to turn around and say, and as Steve does, and I'll hand you over to Amy. Amy and I don't talk to each other until the end of the investigation. We don't know this shit.
I'm convinced that there is some talking, because they, as I said, everything's nicely post-production, packaged, cut in specific order. But if you've worked on a TV set or you've seen the making of something, you know that they shoot things in different orders for, like, even movies and things. So you know, my gut feel is that this is bullshit.
I've been part of I've been part of 3 documentaries in my lifetime, and one of them was filmed over a 3-day period at my house. And at 9:00 at night, they filmed someone going into the bedroom to wake someone up, supposedly at sunrise, to go and do a sun salutation. It was 9:00 at feckin' night.
Yeah, it's amazing.
So I know exactly how TV land works.
But again, it is entertainment, and I'm sure some people watching would like the show. I just can't stand it, because I'm like, they always bring in some random shaman that doesn't really look like a native Indian or something. You know, it's just like we pulled this homeless guy off the street and put some feathers on him, and it's like, now he's blessing your house because there's a portal.
The thing is, Tash, that you made a really good point, and I've got to come back to this, and that is at the end of every time, for every single episode, Amy gives what her beliefs are, what she's seen. Oh my God, there's crap going on with my phone, and it's funny beeps I've never heard before. And her turning around and saying to people, you've got this ghost here, you've got another ghost there, but you've got 43 ghosts outside, and there's a demon in the tree. Now, what you need to do is you need to bring a chaos magician in that is a male. You need to have a Native American Indian shaman in, and you need to bring in 3 mediums, one that is a physical medium, one that is a mental medium, and one that is a psychic medium. Now, these mediums are going to have to come in every month for the next 6 months. And what they're going to have to do is, and it's like, holy fucking shit, where are you getting this from? Amy trying to message you, Tracy. I'm just going to show that one.
Oh, yeah. Well, the thing with that program is that it's very obvious that the psychic is playing on the emotions of the people in the household. And
that's right.
Most people who think that their house is possessed, there's demons, portals, whatever weird shit happening, it's probably a mental health issue. If you watch the program, I don't watch it, but my partner sits there and obviously I absorb it while I'm doing other things. But 99% of the time there's a tragic death in the family, and it's more to do with grief than really paranormal stuff. So they
totally agree.
They think, which is fine, they think that the dead person or the previous owners of the house or whatever is trying to get them to move out or whatnot, which could be the case, but it's just not credible. Like, you listen to this person, Amy, and yeah, it was bizarre.
Yeah, I have to say it is bizarre. What was more bizarre was watching Zach Bagans getting possessed and strangling himself on Goatman's Bridge. Yep, totally agree with you there, Stephen. Absolutely agree with you there.
I mean, yeah. Why would the goat man be interested in you at all?
Well, because I'm Zach Bagan's darling, don't you know?
Ooh,
Next one, Ghost Asylum in 2014. So this is Chris and Brandon Smith, who were brothers, and Scott Porter and Stephen McDougall, which was called Doogie, and Chasey Ray Knight, who you could hardly freaking understand, commonly referred to as Tennessee Wraith Chasers.
I
Now,
love the
these
show
guys
because it's trashy as.
built machines to capture a ghost and transport it out of the place it was in and give it freedom. Did they ever catch a ghost? Did they fuckers lie?
These were redneck devices too.
These were redneck, full stop.
They're all yeah, it was really, really funny show to watch. Like, I watched it for entertainment value, not for ghost hunting. I know that they did fake stuff. However, it was entertainment.
Kelly says she saw them fake stuff on an episode. What was that, Kelly? What did you say? Bring it down, girl. Stick it in the comments.
I remember seeing some things and going, well, there's no camera there, so you can't see who's in the room or who's not in the room.
Right, I know.
Again, you're taking their word and the production.
And I love this.
What is actually happening.
I love this shit. Oh, Chasey Ray, you go into that room on your own, and there's a camera behind him.
Yep.
You're not on your own, are you?
No.
Not unless you're sitting there with a handheld.
Yeah.
Anyway, Paranormal Lockdown 2016. That one rocked off. And that was Nick Groff and Katrina Weidman, who we just mentioned earlier, was in as a trainee in Paranormal State. But Paranormal Lockdown also featured such guests as Lorraine Warren, Amy Bruni, Adam Barry from Kindred Spirits, both of them, John E.L. Tenney, Austin Maynard. So also
before we move on to that one, Cal's elaborated on what.
Let's stop.
So there's a prison basement, and someone moved over there, and you can clearly see a person duck behind a pillar. I'm pretty sure several times I've seen they're like, oh, it's a ghost, but it's like an actual person.
Their own shadow or a cameraman's shadow or...
No, it was literally someone walking past the window.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean, this is entertainment, so... Yeah.
I mean, I put Tennessee Wraith Chasers in the same basket that I put Ghost Adventures in, and that's the basket that I put my toilet paper in after I wipe my ass.
At least they tried to build traps and stuff to capture ghosts.
Oh my God! Why would you even bother? I mean, seriously.
And it's not like they run around like screaming that they're possessed, and they don't tend to lock people in places who are terrified.
Well, no, that's a good point. That's a good point.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's entertainment. I wouldn't say it was like a paranormal investigator type
I just say it's fucking bad entertainment, quite frankly. But
I love it because it's just trashy.
It is trashy, you're right. Paranormal Lockdown. Paranormal Lockdown, I enjoy on occasions.
Yeah, I like it too. I don't mind.
I'm going to completely mug myself and muzzle myself on anything else. I kind of think, again, we're talking about entertainment, and a lot of the stuff, when they say they've got these stupid ITC devices going and they go, oh, it says Nick or whatever. You know what? I don't hear that.
Phone and Sprite box and stuff is
I don't hear that.
I like it because it shows people actually staying overnight and sleeping in places. So
and for a period of time, right?
Yeah. So they do it over a couple
72 hours.
Yeah.
And they've got Paranormal Lockdown UK, and I really liked Paranormal Lockdown UK, but then I like the history of the UK, excuse me, locations. So of course I'm going to like Paranormal Lockdown UK. But it's one of the ones that I will watch quite happily.
Yeah.
Without
Again,
too much
entertainment value.
Yeah,
I mean,
without
it does
too much
show
viewing of
some different equipment, which some of us may or may not agree with. However, it does show them actually doing investigation things. Like instead of running away screaming, they will go towards it, try and catch it on film. I'm trying to remember if they were the ones who caught the creeper.
Yes, they were.
I think it was
At Trans-Allegheny.
Trans-Allegheny.
Yeah, they were.
Which is quite cool. Like, because apparently that's a phenomenon in quite a few different asylums. Is this creeper
that
thing?
Was actually really freaking creepy, man. And I couldn't see it at the time when I was watching it on my phone. I'm like, what the hell? I can't even see that. But when I went and watched it on YouTube and they did light altering with it, it was clear as a bell. It was really, really creepy. Really, really creepy. So from that perspective, and you know what, I watch things like Tennessee Wraith Chasers and I watch how they use meters. Yep. Nope. I watch how they use K2s. Yep. Nope. And you shouldn't even have those on an investigation. Yeah. I watch how they do the torch trick. Yep. Nope. Do you know what I mean? But I watch Paranormal Lockdown and I look at the ITC equipment and I go, you know what? You're reaching and a lot of that shit that you think you're hearing, but some of the stuff that you think you're hearing, I'm actually hearing quite clearly, but I'm not sure about this piece of equipment. Yeah. But they don't use K2s. They don't use the torch. Do you know what I mean? But they solely do rely quite heavily on geoboxes, yeah,
which absolutely. Are really expensive. I don't think that they work, but
yeah, like $2,000 expensive.
Yeah, I know.
Holy hell!
They're very expensive for what they are. A very expensive spirit box, essentially.
Next one that came out in 2016 was Ghosts of Shepherdstown. Now, this was Nick Groff from Ghost Adventures and Paranormal Lockdown, Bill Hartley from Psychic Kids, and Elizabeth Saint, who featured on Paranormal Lockdown and the documentary The House in Between, which is a great documentary. Go watch it. And a heap of other paranormal and supernatural programming. Now, the format between Ghosts of Shepherdstown was based on...
Was this the one where the cops called them in because they had so much weird stuff happening? They were like, yes. It's paranormal. Like, we can't deal with this.
Yes. Yep.
Come fix.
Yep.
Supposedly, I say. It's a nice story.
So how much of this is true, I do not know.
It's a nice story, but yeah.
Because then it spawned off into Ghosts of Morgan City. That happened a little bit later down the track, which we'll talk about a couple of years later. Excuse me. But the general consensus was the whole town was haunted. Heaps of people within the town were reporting paranormal occurrences. The police couldn't deal with it, so they brought in a specialized paranormal team to deal with these issues. And this specialized paranormal team were those three people, Bill Hartley, Nick Groff, and Elizabeth Saint. They had a guest and psychic on there. I can't remember what her name was. Interesting woman. Anyway, 2016 again, Kindred Spirits was released. Woo-hoo. So that was Amy Bruni and Adam Barry, both from Ghost Hunters, I think. Yep.
One of the original.
The original Ghost Hunters, yep. They had guest investigators on there, such as Grant Wilson, ex-Ghost Hunters again, John E.L. Tenney, Paranormal Lockdown, quite a few other people, quite a lot of other people. And their go-to psychic was Chip Coffey, who
Yeah.
was also from the one that Paranormal State. Thank you.
Yeah. Paranormal State. Yeah.
So the one thing that I did like about Kindred Spirits was they actually try and find out who's there.
Yeah.
Who is the spirit? That's their whole focus. It's not about catching evidence. It's not about trying to trap a spirit in a bloody goddamn crystal. It's none of that crap. It's about trying to find out who is actually there. And they go to great lengths to do that. Whether or not they actually manage to do that every episode is, I don't know. But
I really like the show because they do try and find the history and the backstory. And one of my favorite episodes, and I was very lucky because I don't think you can go there anymore. Last year I went to America. I think it is in Rhode Island. It's the Oliver House.
Tash, can I just interrupt you while you talk about this so I can go and have to the little girls' room?
Yep.
And you can continue talking.
So I actually went to the Oliver House, and there's an episode called Zombie Boy. And what happened in this episode is everyone who shows up to investigate always follows the narrative. They're always trying to reach out and talk to this zombie boy. So Adam Berry and what's her name, Amy Bruni, went off site into the barn, which we weren't allowed into because it was decrepit and dangerous. And they made up a whole story about another boy. And they played that narrative, and apparently that was coming through on spirit boxes and things like that. And it's really, really cool place. And yeah, it was a great night, I believe. It's really cool to go see a place that has been on TV. I quite like Kindred Spirits because they try different things. One of the other episodes that I quite like is there was some weird stuff happening in a house. It turns out that the person who made the house or built the house from scratch, he was Polish. People were doing renovations, which is a normal narrative to trigger paranormal events because you're destroying basically the home that they made. But there was a misunderstanding because the people who were doing the renovations had moved in. They only spoke English, whereas the guy that actually built the house only spoke Polish. So it actually brought someone in, I think it was like a great granddaughter or someone from their family that came in and spoke Polish. And then after that, apparently all the paranormal activity ceased. They do try different methods of investigation. I know that they have like a EMF tripwire in one of them. Yeah, they don't just stick to like one type of equipment too. So they do showcase different things. They do the Estes method, which is where you have someone far away or another room that's asking questions, and then you have another person far away in a different place in the building, and they put on headphones and listen to a spirit box. So I was just talking about the Estes method because they tend to do that a lot. But I also was talking about Zombie Boy and also how they use different equipment like EMF tripwires, things like that. So if you don't know what a tripwire is, basically if there's EMF, it lights up different colors depending on the intensity. So either a solid white light, I believe, and then it can go all the way to red or green or whatever if there's EMF present. Yeah, I quite like Kindred Spirits because they do different things, and they actually try and look at the history of the house rather than going by the narrative. Oh yeah, there's a portal or there's a demon.
And the other thing I like about them is they're very quiet and respectful in the way that they investigate. Do you know what I mean? I mean, I don't like the use of the SLS camera when they very rarely do use it, and they gave it up, I think, quite a while ago.
Yeah,
But
I don't believe in that either.
they're very, very quiet about what they do. It's not about yelling questions and demanding answers. It's just quietly sitting there and quietly asking things. But the big thing that I like about them is that they are really completely focused on trying to find out who the individual is that is supposedly haunting the location. Next one. Kels. Kelly, where's your comment?
That one I think was about Tennessee race chasers.
It was two brothers from New York. It's different from the one on TV at the moment. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So the Ghost Brothers one that I'm talking about is from 2016 when it first aired. And remember, guys, that we get this years after it first airs in New Zealand because we're way behind the rest of the world.
Well, we were.
And that was Dalen Spratt, Juan Mas, and Marcus Harvey.
We're not behind anymore because we can stream stuff.
Well, that's true, yeah.
Now.
But I mean,
So
when it hits our TV
a year
screen.
or 2 years, or until TVNZ or whoever buys the rights to show it here.
When I first watched Ghost Brothers, I thought they were hilarious. Particularly the episode when I can't remember which one it was, his wife rings him. And he says, I can't talk to you. I'm on a ghost hunt. Oh, you were thinking of Ghost Lab. I hate Ghost Brothers. I used to think they were funny, Kelly, when I first started watching them.
Are those the three African-American brothers?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, I can't watch that.
Yeah.
Not because they're African-American, it's just they're so overreactive.
Oh, my God, yes. Aren't they just?
And
I'll
if you
never
go with the
forget
narrative that white people or non-African-American people move into haunted houses where African-Americans are like, hell no, we ain't got time for that. It kind of goes against that.
There's a few funny things that I hear throughout the program that I crack up at. Things like, don't be getting me to do that. I know what happens to the black man, brother. He's the one that gets eaten by the ghost and, things like that. That's hilarious, right?
Yeah.
I have seen another episode where his wife rang him when he was on the ghost hunt and he goes, I've got to go. I'm on a ghost hunt. And she goes, don't you be bringing none of that back. Don't you be bringing none of those home to my house. And he's got, I've got to go. And she goes, I'm telling you, don't be bringing. And I was cracking up laughing. But when you watch it, it's just all shit. Now, Dalen Spratt I think it's Dalen, that is now investigating graveyards. And I don't be doing with investigating graveyards. Not saying that I haven't, but I'm saying that I don't believe that you should be going into a graveyard and attempting to talk to dead people because a graveyard is a place of rest. It's as simple as bloody that, quite frankly. So can you imagine if you're dead and you're having a sleep and some bitch comes in and starts yelling, if you want to talk to me, and all this crap, don't be doing it in a graveyard, all right? That's a place of rest, people.
I mean, I've done it as well. We've done some historical graveyards around Franklin District, but they're old ones. There's people being currently buried there, but it has like an interesting history. But I sort of believe that if you end up, if you wouldn't end up in the graveyard, why would you be haunting a graveyard? Wouldn't you go back to somewhere you liked, like your house or your batch, or where you used to ride your horse, or, wouldn't you want to go back to where you were happy, rather than be in like a graveyard with.
So that brings up my point of, do you not think by going into a graveyard that you might be actually dragging these spirits up from their rest? So just don't be fucking doing it, man. Simple as.
There's lots of people that do that sort of investigation. If there's like, I know there's like historical graveyards and stuff, but yeah, maybe just leave the dead alone.
Leave the dead dead.
Where they're arresting,
basically.
you know. That
Now,
sort
the
of
next
thing.
one that we had on our list, Ash.
It's Portals to Hell, 2019. So we
Now,
all know Jack.
I actually really liked this program.
I do too. Because
Oh, yay!
because Jack comes in as like Jack Osborne. He comes in as basically a skeptic, really. He's there. He's not. He wasn't an investigator like when they started the program, but from that point on, he started to get more into investigating and looking at different methods and things like that. The name is interesting. Like, again, Portals to Hell. I mean,
so I guess their focus of every single episode is trying to determine whether or not a portal is there.
Yeah.
And this is another situation that I find quite laughable. As much as I find, is there a demon here? So portals are not free. Wait, hold up. What are you eating, dog? Sorry.
Mine's locked down.
Portals are about as regular as demons, which are incredibly rare. So I found the concept of the program laughable, but I found the investigators, Jack Osborne and Katrina Weidman from Paranormal State and Paranormal Lockdown, who now does Travel the Dead on YouTube, quite credible. Again, maybe some of the equipment not so credible. They use the torch experiment, which we all know is a trick and nothing more. They use debunked. Yep. Yep. I agree with Stephen. I like how Jack investigates. Yep. I agree with you.
I mean, they're determining if there's portals, but it's like, what is a portal? Like, no one can say for sure that there are portals.
You know who I really do like on the show? Their guest psychic, Michelle Bellinger.
Yeah, she's awesome. I got her book, a couple of her books.
Yep. I think she is awesome. She is again from Paranormal State. They've featured Heather Teddy, who's also from Paranormal State and various other paranormal TV shows. She's actually really good friends with Katrina Weidman, and she's actually on Katrina Weidman's Travel the Dead, is actually her and Heather Teddy and Zach, not Baggins, another Zach, who's their tech guy. But yeah, I actually quite enjoyed Portals to Hell.
Yeah, I enjoyed it too. I mean, the name was obviously to get people's attention.
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
Yeah, no, it's none.
And the next one in 2019 that was released was the Holzer Files.
I can't watch it.
You can't see? I really like it. So that's featured Dave Schrader, who runs a radio station. I can't remember what it's called now, but it's all to do with the paranormal. And also featured on Ghost Adventures and quite a few other programs, Shane Pittman and Cindy Kaiser.
Yeah, that's why I can't watch it.
Who was the psychic of the program. Who took over from Amy Allen on the Dead Files for one season only, and now they're bringing back the Dead Files with Amy Allen back in it now. Cindy, this is an interesting one with Cindy Kaiser. I don't know if any of you watch Below Deck.
No.
Well, I do. Like, I'm an avid Below Deck fan. And Cindy Kaiser was a guest of a bunch of psychics that hired a super yacht out for the weekend, and they filmed her. She was actually, before she was Darkness Radio. Thank you. She was actually on that program before she was on any other programs at all. Incidentally, the person who was supposedly the big I am psychic did a psychic reading for the captain. Everything was wrong that she said. Everything. She did readings for staff. Everything she said was wrong. Everything.
Well, give her props. I guess give her props because, you know, if psychics are bang on, I do believe that some people have some psychic ability. Like I believe Michelle Bellinger is quite legit. However, if you're bang on all the time, 100% hits, whatever, it does look suspicious, like you've done some research prior.
This chick wasn't bang on with anything.
Yeah, but at least she struck out. You know, she wasn't faking it.
But this wasn't Cindy Kaiser. This was the other chick who was the one that had hired the whole thing and was supposedly mentoring all these other psychics. What Cindy Kaiser actually had to say did come to fruition, although it wasn't hard to work that out, because I could see that was going to happen further down the track. Yeah, she was actually on Below Deck I think it was Below Deck Mediterranean she was on before she actually became a TV psychic. And the other one that came, another one. What's the next one that came out in 2019, Tash?
That would be Destination Fear with our friends. Yes, our friends that from Dakota, Ghost Adventures, his sister Chelsea, Tanner Wiseman and Alex Schroeder.
So Tanner was Chelsea and Dakota's best friend from childhood.
Yeah.
And they all had paranormal experiences. Now, the format for this program, if you haven't seen it, is, as it says, Destination Fear. So they're put into positions that elevate their fear factor, if you like. So, in other words, they're put into these really haunted locations, into a haunted hotspot, and they're meant to sleep there for the night on their own, and they're all split up doing their own things.
If we step back from that, they have an envelope. Literally, they don't know where they are going. So they have an envelope with the history and thing of the place that they don't open until they're almost at the location, I believe. And
that's right, yeah.
Depending on that, and they also do, like, they pull the shortest straw sort of thing. So who gets to sleep in the morgue and who gets to sleep on the really spooky third floor of an asylum. They're quite excitable. I can't remember if they were screaming as much as their current one on YouTube. But
no.
They
definitely weren't. But then again, what you've got is you've got a bunch on a TV program. You've got a bunch of producers with reins on you, you know, telling you what to do and what not to do. And their Project Fear, which is their YouTube thing, which they've made their fans pay for, and they've been able to go to England because of it. They've got no restraints. It's just full on. But I mean, the screaming starts before they even, and what they've got now, the screaming starts before they even leave their homes.
They're literally screaming and yelling at each other in the car on the way there. It's just like, why? Like, I get you trying to pull people in, but it's like, it's not funny. It's not cool. It's actually quite annoying. Can you just hurry up and get to the paranormal place and start investigating? Like, it's getting quite old having them scream at each other, whether it be at the Airbnb or in their vehicle. It's just like, just go to the place and investigate, because that's what the show is about. Nobody cares about all these stupid bits in the car. Just go and investigate.
And the thing is, all the screaming is like, they're all 25 plus 30-year-olds now. They're acting like 18 and 19-year-olds when they're acting like a very young Sam and Colby as they're going to all these locations. It's time to grow the fuck up, kids. Let's move on. Next one. Ghosts of Morgan City. That was in 2019. 2019 was a big year. There was 4 programs that aired paranormal-wise.
Quite a few.
So, Ghosts of Morgan City, I actually liked to a degree. It had Ben Hansen on it, who was the lead investigator. Now, he is an ex-FBI agent, and he was on Osborne's Want to Believe, Ghost Hunters, Portals to Hell, Paranormal Lockdown, The Osborne's Night of Terror, and I could go on and on and on and on and on and on and on with the amount of programs this guy's been on. It also had Sarah Lemos on there, who was the resident psychic. Medium. And she'd been on Portals to Hell and also Ghost Town Terror, if you've ever seen that pile of poopy. And Jerome Leonard was also on it. And he was on 28 Days Haunted, which was the documentary that ran for 28 days that Tony Spera, Ed and Lorraine Warren's son-in-law, and I think it was Aaron Sager fronted, where they locked people in. Shane Pittman was on that too, from the Holzer Files. They locked people in 3 different locations. I think there was 2 investigators in each location, and they were meant to be locked in for 28 days. So Ghosts of Morgan City actually carried the same sort of format as Ghosts of Shepherdstown. And that was Morgan City had a whole heap of hauntings occurring, and the police called them in to investigate them.
Yeah.
And that was...
And someone supposedly faked a heart attack to them earlier, I believe. I can't remember which one did it.
Oh, really? I didn't know that. And that was also apparently the cop in Shepherdstown gave the cop in Ghosts of Morgan City, because Morgan City wasn't that far, or in the grand scheme of things, from Shepherdstown, contact details to get in contact with a team. So it was originally meant to be the original people from the Ghosts of Shepherdstown doing this, but they were ousted, and Bill Hartley says it was due to Zach. Quite liked Ghosts of Morgan City. Quite enjoyed it on the odd occasion.
I don't remember if I watched it or not. I know that Cal probably watched it.
They actually got a blinding piece of footage of supposedly a ghost, which looks like you or I, but we're transparent and we're in a nightie. And they got it from a couple of different angles. It was shouted down as fake, but Ben Hansen came back on and said, listen, here's another angle in which we caught this. I can categorically state on my life this is not fake. But, nowadays when you got so many fake people.
White dress, though. It's always a woman in a white or grey dress or nightie. It's kind of...
But it actually just looked like a normal person from 1980 or 1920 or 2010 in a white nightie. It wasn't an old-fashioned nightie. It was just a normal white nightie. But it was quite interesting. And a light came on in the area just prior to her manifesting.
Yeah.
So have you seen the next one, Tash, on the list?
I don't think I have.
Haunting in the Heartland in 2020. Steve Shippey and his cohorts, far too many to mention. It's actually The format is going into people's houses like kindred spirits. Check. It's going into personal people's houses. 211 Haunted Collector was quite good. That was Johnny Zaffis, I believe, who is the nephew of the Warrens.
Yep.
I don't know if we got him here, but I do believe it was on streaming services that we could access in this country.
I watched it, but it didn't. I guess it didn't resonate with me because I can't remember it.
It was okay. It was okay. I quite enjoyed it when I first saw it, but yeah, I kind of got a bit worn with it. But Haunting in the Heartland, I quite enjoyed. Again, didn't agree with the use of the K2s. Didn't agree with how they used quite a lot of other paranormal equipment. Totally incorrectly. So you get false positives, and then it's easy to say it's a spirit, isn't it? The next one I absolutely love. Paranormal Declassified. Came out 2020. Paul Beeben is actually an investigative journalist, mainstream investigative journalist. The stuff that he goes into on Paranormal Declassified and does deep dives and gets right into it is amazing. It's on WB Paranormal channel, on the TV3 Now app, under the live TV icon. It's not on at the moment, but as I said, these programs roll around and they just constantly get replayed after a few months. So keep your eye on it because it'll come up. It's actually one of the best programs ever for finding factual, documented evidence of certain things occurring and then diving deeper. They speak to government officials about UFOs. They speak to government officials about cattle mutilations, all sorts of things. Chupacabras, everything you can imagine, he gets into. It's absolutely awesome. And then Fright Club. Tash, you go.
I'm trying to remember what this one is.
2021 was Jack Osborne and the three Dalen Spratt, Juan Mars, and Marcus Harvey from Ghost Brothers. And they look at other people's clips that they send in.
Yeah, they react.
Yeah, and what they try and do is they try and find the scariest clip. They've all got to come up with the scariest clip type of thing.
Oh, yeah. So it's sort of like what Jack Osborne does with the Osborne family, that he would show clips of UFOs and paranormal phenomena.
Yeah, the Osbornes want to believe.
Is this fake or not? Do you believe in it, and why, or why you do not believe in it?
Yep. And then at the end of it, they choose. They also talk to the people who took the clip, but at the end of it, then there's a winner out of all of them. Which one's the scariest clip for that week, type of thing. And while we're on about, we haven't really spoken about Jack Osborne.
Yeah. Well, we did a little bit, Portals to Hell, and
yeah. Not only was he in Portals to Hell, but he was also in Fright Club, and he was also in Osborne's Want to Believe, and he was also in Osborne's Night of Terror, and he was also in. There was another one that
this one
where he went back to his home
in England.
Yeah, his actual home in England and the surrounding districts. I think it was only 3 episodes, and he did things there with Kate Sherrill, who was a parapsychologist. And then there was Haunted Highway, and then there was another one when he just went off with his dad. And it wasn't supposedly meant to be a haunted thing, but they fell into going to haunted places.
So the England one's Haunted
That
Homecoming.
was it, Kelly. Thanks.
Yeah, and there was one when they were in an RV, and I believe they went across America to certain
That's
places.
the one. Yeah, that's the one I'm talking about with him and his dad.
Yeah.
And it was just a road trip, but they ended up going into haunted places along the way. And yes, Haunted Homecoming was him going back to his home and I think it was a school, his old school, and also an old pub in the area, which was quite interesting.
I might add in a controversial one. Conjuring
Dude,
Keisha. 2022.
Do you know what? Can I say something that's going to freak everyone out? I loved that program.
I liked it too. There was quite a few credible people on there, like Michelle Bellinger, Heather Taddy. I quite liked the episode about the Oddfellows Lodge, because I believe the bookshop downstairs was where people were locked in for the 28 days of haunting.
Ah, right. Okay.
Yeah, so they're linked. But yeah, if you want to learn about some really interesting stuff, look up the Oddfellows, the Oddfellow Order.
We've got chapters here in New Zealand.
We do.
Lots of them, actually. Although you will find that a lot of the chapters are now defunct, but the buildings that they were still in or they were doing their rituals in are still alive and well and funking.
Yeah. I've investigated one in Pukekohe.
Conjuring Keisha.
Yeah, Conjuring Keisha. Even though she's a singer and people think she's a ditzy blonde, it's actually a really good program.
I actually loved it.
Yeah,
and it wasn't
over the top, and it wasn't overly, production wise, and it was interesting. And she actually went through one of the rituals at the Oddfellows Lodge, which is interesting to see, because a lot of these organizations, like the Masons and things, you don't actually know what they do, and there's a whole lot of conspiracy theories about these groups, but they actually showed and explained what their beliefs were and why they did certain rituals, and it's
in saying that ritual that she went through was the most basic of the basics of the basics.
Yeah.
That's the ritual you go through before you get a chance to see any other rituals that occur, which she wouldn't have got to see. But at the same time, I actually was quite disappointed. I heard heaps of shit on the internet about that program, and I went and watched it, and I was like, I'm sorry, this is better than pretty much 8 out of 10 paranormal programs that are out there being shown right now, and you guys are all slating this program. What is your issue? I actually really, really enjoyed it.
Most of the issue was with the host, because she's a singer, pop star, had some controversy about essay and to do with her producer for her albums, and then she was fighting to get the rights for her music back, which sounds fair enough, because you don't want him making money off you.
I think that was a complete setup, because
I think that's the main reason. Job. She was like, I'm not going to take that BS anymore. I'm going to take control. And often when women take control, men don't like it.
Absolutely agree with you on that score. So I'm giving Conjuring Kesha the thumbs up. Bitches.
I think it was on like TVNZ, streaming on TVNZ, and it was also like on Amazon Prime and things like that.
And it was on WP Paranormal live channel as well, on TV3 Now app, because that's where I saw it. I actually really liked it. I don't care what anyone says. Okay, she's not an investigator. Yeah, she shat her pants at times and wanted to leave. And hey, you know what? I've shat my pants at times in places too. I haven't left. But I've shat my pants.
Things that happen, and you're kind of like, oh, this doesn't feel very good. But
I'm not down with this. This brings me to YouTube. Now, this brings me to a program that's quite close to home called Haunting. So we're getting off the TV screens now.
Yeah,
we're going into the YouTube. Haunting
What do you call it?
Australia.
Social media. We're going to social media now.
We're going to social media. Haunting Australia, released in 2014, showed Rob Demarest as the lead investigator from Ghost Hunters, and Ian Lawman as an investigator. Now, you'll see his name come up in a minute. Again, Gaurav Tiwari, who RIP, rest his soul. Alan Tiller, Australian historian. Ray Jordan and Raylene Cable, who was the Australian psychic. Now, what they literally did was Rob Demarest was from America, Ian Lawman was from the UK, Gaurav Tiwari was from India, Alan Tiller was from Australia. I don't know where Ray Jordan was from, and Raylene Cable was from Australia. So they pulled in investigators from all over the world, and Rob Demarest was the guy who ran the team. Actually, some great results. They had some great results. And Gaurav, who was always the guy taking the photos on his full spectrum camera, captured some interesting anomalies, really interesting anomalies. Unfortunately, Gaurav is said to have killed himself back in India. He ran his own paranormal team back there. This guy had a knack. He actually had a knack for capturing stuff on his full spectrum. Real sad. Some great episodes. So you can find that on YouTube. And then there's Travel the Dead, which is Katrina Weidman and Heather Taddy, both from Paranormal State. Was it Paranormal State? Ghost Hunters? Whatever.
Yep.
As well as Portals to Hell. They've got their, because Portals to Hell got cancelled. Katrina's now gone off and done Travel the Dead. They still use Michelle Bellinger, so you can still see her talents if you go onto YouTube.
You can actually also do classes with her as well.
Oh, really?
Online, yes. So she does online classes. You can pay money and you can learn how to get in tune with your psychic side.
I wonder how much those classes are.
They're not really expensive. Like when I bought the book, they didn't seem very expensive, and it's a couple. It's like a course over a couple of weeks. So it's not just like one. Here we go. Here's a crystal ball. Off you go. But she does like tarot reading and go through, as you've talked about before, making her own incense for rituals and things. So it's quite interesting watching or seeing that as well. She has her own website. You can buy her books. Some of her older books that she released when she was in college. She wrote when she was in college. Are available online if you want to read those. They're free from her website. But yeah, I'd recommend reading some of her books and some of the ideas around the paranormal, just in general.
There's also Project Fear, which we've already spoken about, released in 2023. So after Destination Fear got cancelled, they created a GoFundMe and they wanted $60,000 US. I think within 24 hours, they reached something like $120,000 US, and they kept it going, so much so that it enabled all of them to travel to England. And so I guess they got a lot of money through their GoFundMe.
There's also like other programs like Slapped Ham, Nukes Talk 5. There's a whole bunch of Paranormally Listed. There's all these different ones on YouTube.
We're going to come to content creators in a minute because that's not necessarily paranormal investigating. So that's a separate issue.
This is just paranormal entertainment, not necessarily investigators.
Yeah, but they're content creators.
Yeah.
Let's face it. They're definitely content creators.
You send stuff in and they post it and like, did you see that? It's a new top 5.
Colette's had her stuff. I don't know if she's still on, but Colette's had her stuff posted on Slapped Ham. But Project Fair, as we said, since they're not Destination Fair, both Tasha and I have said it's just scream, scream, scream. Yeah, hype. It's bullshit.
Yeah. It just detracts from the historical side. Like,
Absolutely.
I understand it's good in respect to that it'll make people want to go to historical sites, so they'll get money, so they can look after these very good places that tend to get bowled and demolished. But it is hard to watch.
Yeah, totally. Very, very hard to watch. And that brings me to one of the worst programs I've ever seen in my entire 60 years. Well, let's pop that down. 47 years of being involved in this field. Help, my house is haunted. First aired in 2018. So this is Barry Guy, Jane Harris, and Ian Lawman, who's now a psychic from Haunting Australia, going in. Well, actually, no, excuse me. He's a psychic and an exorcist, going into people's private homes. Their guest psychic, Chris Fleming, who is also from Haunted Scotland, who, I'm sorry, I can't abide. And I will categorically state that I cannot abide this individual. I have had many set twos in person with him online, one-on-one, because his ego is just absolutely fucking out of control in my mind. And he is just a show pony.
Yeah.
So he assumes that nobody knows what he knows. No one has the same ability that he does. It's just complete show. It's a dog and pony show. It really is.
Does sound familiar, to be honest. Does sound very familiar. There's similar characters who shall remain nameless. They're exactly the same.
Honestly, it's just it's
all for the show, really. It's like, look at me, I'm the best, I know everything about everything. And just to be completely transparent and clear, nobody knows shit about the paranormal. People know like bits and pieces, but even those bits and pieces that people know, you can't prove it.
Yeah.
But then again, it could be like electricity, and like in 10 years' time, they can actually demonstrate and prove it to people that it actually works this way.
Well, let me relate to you one episode. Now, I can't remember whether it was Haunted Scotland. No, it was on Haunted Scotland, because he also was in Haunted Ireland, but it was on Haunted Scotland. They were in a prison somewhere, and you saw him back up, and they said, "What's the matter?" And he said, "Someone's just inserted their fingers in my bum."
He would be so lucky.
On camera.
That's something strange to admit. I'd say that's pretty novel for entertainment value to admit that, but
that's like someone who goes,
yeah,
on
possessed.
Goatman's Bridge, isn't it?
I don't know. Was he in a doctor's surgery? Maybe.
What's that Australian program? What's that? Look at my.
Catherine Kim.
The one. That's the one. Absolutely.
Look, do you know who we have forgotten that we
Who?
had on weeks ago? Frightfully Good from Australia.
Oh, we haven't got there yet.
Yes, we have.
We just got to YouTube episodes, as in
Yeah.
TV programs, but on YouTube. We haven't got to content creators on YouTube.
Well, they're not content creators. They're actual investigators.
Yeah, but they're not TV programs, because all these other ones were TV programs that are now on YouTube.
Yeah, but
and available on YouTube.
It's
so now we get to content creators.
I wouldn't call them content creators. I'd call them actually, because they do a lot of different things. They do investigations. They do history. They also do, Renata does tarot readings, and they do some hilarious things involving Temu.
Yeah, no, I definitely put them in the content creator range because they create content for YouTube.
But they also run tours and actual
True,
investigations.
but that's a completely separate part of their business, though, in all honesty, just like
It still comes under
Paranormal is a
the
completely separate part of
umbrella.
their
It
business.
comes on the umbrella of the ghost grannies. So they do
Oh, it
a lot
does,
of different things,
definitely. But
including
they have got, oh my God, I'm pulling up the wrong thing here. They've got content on YouTube that's definitely worth watching. Whether or not it's their podcast or whether or not it's investigations that they're showcasing. But yeah, definitely go and check them out for sure. They're one of the when I'm talking about content creators, I'm talking about people that have not had a TV show and the episodes are not being put on YouTube. Content creators are people who create content specifically for YouTube, and it's not anywhere else. So, and
it
that
doesn't really matter because content is content, whether it's been on TV or not. And they do a lot.
It does with what we're talking about, because we're talking about TV programs and we're talking about YouTube channels, and the two things are completely separate. But
really,
there is shit that's on YouTube that is a TV program, but it doesn't have its own channel. So other people put it up. I.e., if you're looking for Help My House is Haunted, it's not on a Help My House is Haunted channel. Okay,
so
Travel the Dead is.
Like Ghost Hunt. But they do lots of interesting different things.
Yeah, they do. Absolutely. And it's definitely worth going to check them out.
Yeah, if you're in Newcastle, they frequently run all sorts of haunted nights and experience, so you can use different equipment. They also do trips around the world. So when I was talking about the Oliver House in the USA, we went to Massachusetts and went to Rhode Island with them in the USA. I think they're going to Ireland.
Yeah, they are.
Soon as well.
September.
Yeah.
I think they're off to Ireland.
So if you want a spooky trip, frightfully good haunted holidays.
Keep your eye on them, haunted holidays, because next year it looks like it's Scotland and New Zealand, according to what they were telling us. So you could do some tours around New Zealand with them, visiting various haunted places, which Natasha, I believe, is going to be organising for them.
I'm going to be helping. I don't know what I'm doing at the moment. I
know what you're doing. You're going to be organising it for them.
I could be just the driver. I'll be the chauffeur.
You're going to be doing an Anton Hayrack. When Ghost Hunters International came over, he set up all the locations for them, got it all organised, all that sort of crap. Anyway,
which is also on YouTube and was a program, and it's also on TVNZ, Sensing Murder.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, if you're into mediums, I wouldn't actually call it paranormal.
Well, it's interesting because I like to learn about true crimes and missing people. Because a lot of the time, the people, they don't know, they just disappeared. And this happens a lot in New Zealand. And I don't think people from other countries understand that, bad stuff happens everywhere. But
the size of New Zealand, with the amount of people that it's got in it, it happens far too often in this country, mate.
I think a lot of things are related to our forests and things that people underestimate the conditions. even if it's not snowy, it can get cold, and it's very damp here. So it can get very cold very quickly, and people just wander off and disappear. There's quite a few. It's interesting to see some New Zealand crime.
So that's funny. You put that into the category of paranormal, but I don't. I put that into the category of spiritual. I don't put that into paranormal because I don't actually believe that psychic abilities are paranormal. I actually think they're quite normal.
It's not just the psychics, because I can sort of tune out the psychics, because again, it's the same premise. They're not told anything. They're basically driven near or around the suburb where supposedly the murder or the person disappeared. But some of the instances of people disappearing, it's like, or being murdered and no one knows what happened, it seems very weird, like very strange. Like it's not normal. Like normally someone gets murdered, you've got DNA evidence and things like that. But, or if they disappear, you know where they're gone to. But someone put, pardon the pun, it's Colette, a crossover. So I find it very interesting, which... I'm
bored with it now.
Like, I remember when you were talking about McLaren Falls and how that felt spooky and weird to you.
Yeah.
That was one of the episodes. A lot of people have disappeared there, whether it was under nefarious conditions or other, like there was recently a guy that decided to go near the falls when we had that cyclone and they found him. That sort of thing. But it sort of segues me into another content creator. There's a guy called Shadow Matter, and the reason he started up his paranormal channel is his sister went missing somewhere in the South Island. They had a ute that was manual. It was white. She couldn't drive a manual, and she was seen being driven away by somebody. And they haven't found the murderer who's actually caused the issue. It's still an ongoing case, but that should have brought him into, and he does a lot. So Shadow Matter, he does a lot of New Zealand and Australian cases, which is really, really quite interesting, looking at paranormal, missing people, UFOs, cryptids, all sorts of things. So the channel is a New Zealand guy from Shadow Matter. I'm pretty sure, based on his voice, he did the voiceover like on Police 10-7 and Motorway Patrol. It sounds very familiar to whoever did the voiceovers, you know.
I'll have to have a listen.
Yeah, so that's on YouTube as well. And he does a lot of missing people and disappearances. Yeah.
But then you're getting into crime stuff, which really isn't necessarily paranormal.
He does do like UFOs and cryptids and other things, which
okay.
Paranormal. So it's sort of a mishmash of true crime and.
So I think the other thing that needs to be mentioned with regards to the paranormal, because there's a huge focus on the paranormal only being about ghosts and hauntings, and it's so much more than that. We're talking about an enormous field that covers everything from spontaneous human combustion to cryptids, to UAPs, to time slips, to reincarnation, to NDAs and OBEs, which is near-death experiences and out-of-body experiences. There's so much more, to mediums, to whether they be psychic mediums, whether they be physical mediums. Do you know what I mean? There's so much more to the paranormal than just ghosts and hauntings, and yet that seems to be the 2020 focus, you know, from 2025 onwards focus on the paranormal. But most of the content creators on YouTube that you can find, you've got to be really careful with YouTube, because YouTube is just an absolute cesspit of the paranormal. There is so much bullshit and so much fakery and so much rubbish on YouTube that you need to be exceptionally careful that what you're watching is considered to be legit. So when we're talking about paranormal investigating, and that's it, not talking about anything else, just paranormal investigating, I would probably only recommend 2 channels, and that would be the Ouija Brothers and Ghosts on Trent, because neither channel have been proven that they have faked anything at this point in time. Many channels on YouTube have been proven.
I've just popped up the link for Shadow Matter because he does a lot of true crime, but he does a lot of other things as well. But we can put the link below as well. Just give props to a New Zealand person doing anything.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. I think what you've got to do, if you're watching YouTube stuff, you have to be really, really, really careful about what you're watching, and you have to do your homework. Now, there's been so many that I have watched on YouTube, and I have actually watched debunkers and found out that 80%, 90% of what I've flicked into and I've watched is absolutely fake, and they prove it again and again and again and again with these channels. And it's not just one debunker, it's 4 or 5 of them that are doing it. So you need to be really careful.
You have to have the caveat that the content creators who are skeptics need to make content, right? So what they debunk, because a lot of them say, no, that's fake, rah, 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 and they'll give you reasons, but it's like, hey, wait a minute, that reason doesn't make sense. Like, they're doing it for their own content, whether it's to create controversy and start beefs with people so that they have more content.
Listen, if I can see a glinting wire, if I can see that masking has been done, then as far as I'm concerned, it's fake. And these debunkers are proving these things, and they're showing these things. That there is the glint of the wire.
Are, but on the flip side of the coin, some of them might be doctoring footage to get more views.
No, I think that's a bit of a stretch. I think some of them will create. I would say that some particular debunkers will create beef to get views.
It's not just beef. I just mean, you said masking, but it's very easy to take someone's footage and muck around with it and say, oh, yeah, it's fake. If they don't show the uncut, unedited.
No, but that's what they are showing, though, Tash. That's what I'm saying. They are showing the raw.
Not necessarily. I have seen them try and debunk something, certain skeptics. I've seen them, and they've actually doctored the footage. So when you go and actually watch the actual video,
but I'm not talking about skeptics. I'm talking about debunkers that are actually investigators at the same time.
Yeah, so, but some of them are actually trying to create content from other people's content, saying that's fake.
Yeah, but
they actually have, doctored footage or made it so grainy and so bad that you're like, oh, why is there potato footage? But you go and you actually look at the actual physical video, and it's not that bad.
But I haven't seen a debunker like that, so that's probably where you and I are coming with different.
I've seen some very popular ones that have done that.
No, I haven't. Not with the footage. When I've gone and looked at the footage,
they're only showing what you want to see, and it's not necessarily true.
This is where you and I are going to disagree on this, because I have seen the footage from the teams that have put it up and said I've caught something, and I've seen the footage from the debunkers, and there's no difference between the two, and yet the debunkers are clearly showing that there is masking. They're clearly
I'm not
showing
saying that they all do that. I'm just saying that on YouTube, you're only seeing what the content creator wants you to see, and that's not necessarily true. Whether it be a ghost investigator or
absolutely agree with that. So you've got to be as careful about your debunkers as what you have to be as careful about the footage that you're watching that is supposedly a paranormal investigation where they've caught something. So what you've got to do is if you are watching a paranormal content creator, because if they've got a YouTube channel and they're putting out videos on a weekly basis and they're going to investigations, they're not investigators, they're a freaking content creator, because investigators don't have time to put out YouTube videos every freaking week. They're too busy.
That's their full-time job.
But then they're not an investigator, because investigators are too busy investigating and analysing the footage that they've captured from 8 cameras that's been running from 8 hours in investigation.
I
They can't get through that in a week.
You have a whole
There's no
production
possible way.
that can actually look at the videos for you and see what you picked up. So,
Come on, let's be realistic, Taz. How many people have got that?
Not many, but some do.
None.
Yeah, they do.
Unless they've got a TV program.
Yeah, exactly.
And then they won't be on YouTube because they've got a TV program. So
No,
when we're talking about
someone's cancelling all the programs apparently in the USA.
Well, yeah, so they say, but that was like fucking a few years ago now. That's been long gone. So those that are on YouTube now, I'm talking about the likes of Twin Paranormal, Really Haunted. They're putting out videos week after week after week, if not a couple of times a week, and saying that they've captured this shit and they found these paranormal occurrences. How do they know they have? Because I'm telling you what, if you are going and doing an investigation week after week after week after week, you don't have the time to actually look into that footage and analyze that properly to determine whether or not what you've called as paranormal in the first instance.
I guess it depends.
And secondly, if you are catching something week after week after week after week, you're full of fucking shit, because it doesn't happen.
But maybe it would be over a series of months.
Now, these guys are putting these videos out. They go out once a week, mate. It's what they're trying to earn money off. It's what they get their stars from, their likes, their Patreons.
But
if
then
they don't
again,
put the video out, they don't get it.
We're here talking about paranormal entertainment, not paranormal investigating.
But this is the whole point. These things are being put out as paranormal investigations. And that's what I'm saying. They're not. That's my point.
I guess it depends on what channel and things you're looking at. If you've been investigating for a very long time, you have a lot of footage, you have a lot of stuff that you can look through, and then you can compare going back to that site. So some groups might have quite a lot of content and enough team members that are dedicated to go through all that footage and manage to get enough content.
So the general rule, when you've got the likes of Most Haunted, which is one guy creating shit in his lounge, and asking people for money on Patreon to be enabled to create this shit in his lounge, and then you've got 3 guys who were homeless before they started creating shit on YouTube, and they did it as a laugh to begin with, and now they're earning a fortune from it, and they go out every single week and they do these investigations and they find this content in their footage every single week that is supposedly paranormal. I mean, come on.
Yeah, I mean, that's one side of the coin, but there's other content creators or investigators that can post things every week because they go to the same sites.
Yep, and guess what? Most of them find fucking nothing. And they're the ones that I'm talking about, like the Ouija brothers, like Ghosts on Train.
Yeah, but we're talking about entertainment as a whole.
But where does entertainment end and truth begin? That's what we've got to look at here.
The issue is that if we look at it that way, then nobody's captured anything because nobody can prove that what they actually captured was an EVP. It wasn't someone making a noise.
Oh, we're not talking about truth. We're talking about entertainment versus...
Yeah, that's what I mean. But you're talking about investigations, and they're not investigators because they find something every week, which I do agree to a certain extent. But I do agree that there's some groups that go back to the same locations every week frequently, and they actually analyze all the data, and that's why they put the videos out. And it's not necessarily...
I'm not disputing that, but what I'm saying, if you were doing this every single week, you don't have time from the minute that you've taken that footage to analyze all of that footage before you actually release that footage. You cut, you do post-production, you do post-audio, and then you release that footage. Bullshit. In a week, bullshit. Absolute bullshit. Can't be done.
If that was my job, I could possibly do it.
Can't be done. Not if you've got 8 cameras, 8 hours footage in one location, and you've got 2 people doing it even. Can't be done.
A lot of investigators don't have 8 cameras. Project Fear is a good example.
Project Fear have their 4, and they have static lock-offs as well. So they've got at least 6.
Not in the ones that I've seen, because when something has happened in supposedly the most haunted places, they don't have a camera, and then they freak out.
But then if they don't have a camera, how were they filmed?
They filmed themselves in a room, and this is the recent one that I saw, and the guy, I can't remember his name, I think it was Tanner, he jumped off the chair and was like, oh my God, someone walked past the doorway. Down the hallway that is attached to the supposedly most haunted place in the building, which was the staircase. They didn't have a camera, so they didn't capture it. They had a camera on him, but they didn't have it on the doorway, and they didn't have one down the hallway, and they didn't have one on the base of the stairs.
Yeah, well, that might only be with Tanner at that particular point in time, but I have seen them on Project Fear with their own handheld camera, and they've got a lock-off as well. Somewhere in that building, either featuring them from a distance or featuring somebody else from a distance. It's not just constant their handheld on their face.
That program is that they've raised all this money, but they've kind of skimped on the camera, like the number of cameras that they have. And usually just one camera on them, and it doesn't show the whole. It didn't show the whole room. It didn't show
compared to what they had. Yeah, they've really scaled back on that. And I guess that's the difference between having a production company chucking money at you and having to fund your own shit. And I guess they're putting all their money into actually having the ability to travel to where they're going to get there. Well, mind you, they've just flown across the bloody sea, haven't they, to the UK and did something like 2.5 months, 3 months in the UK filming.
Yeah.
The thing is, these people, these programs, these TV programs, they don't go in for one night, and neither do these content creators. They go in for 3 to 4 days. They're there, and they're filming a 30-minute or an hour-long section from their 3 days that they've spent there filming just about all the time, and it's cut down to an hour of footage that they take. So they'll have maybe 2 or 3 nights actually investigating and saying that it was actually all in the one night, making sure they wear the same clothing and all the rest of it, when it's actually not all in the same night. It's done over 3 nights, for instance.
Yeah, I know how that works. I know that how production works and all that. It's just that it's interesting that whenever they capture something, there's no camera there. There's no additional cameras showing everything. Supposedly they're alone, and supposedly they're in the most haunted place and of the building or whatever, and there's like one camera, and it's like,
and it's their handheld, and there's no long shot.
Yeah, it's not them. It's not because we have cameras all over the place. Obviously we're not rich either, but we will walk away and leave our cameras running. Whereas they don't. They're in the room and they're talking and blah, blah, blah and whatever. But we would leave cameras in supposedly the most haunted or allegedly haunted places and leave it running without us there, just in case something funny happens. Because as we've talked about before, usually the weird stuff happens when you're not in the room, when you walk away and you're packing up your equipment.
Yep.
So I find it really interesting that these programs don't show, even if it's like 20 seconds of footage of just the camera and nobody in the area at the time. It's just weird, because that's like Paranormal 101. Make sure that you have something in there.
The funny thing is, I have seen, I can't remember which programs they were though, Tash, but I have seen a couple show that.
Yeah.
Just a camera in a room and something does, like something odd. There is an odd noise, or there's an odd shadow or something. But it's very rare. Like there's only been a couple of programs in the history that I can think of that have actually shown that something has happened from a locked off camera when no one's in the room.
Yeah.
And the rest of it has always been, I've got a handheld. Oh, what the fuck was that? Do you know what I mean? And there was that noise, and then there was another noise. But guess what? The camera's not shooting down the hallway from where that noise has been heard. It's on someone's face instead.
Yeah. Which,
and I think
quite a few of the programs or the content creators have shown, like when you watch these programs, it's just one camera.
Yeah.
Not multiple.
And then I love those ones that say, oh, we're sending Chasey Ray down to the basement on his own, and he's got a handheld camera. And then next minute, you see another camera that's moving as he's walking along, and you're like, hang on, he's not on his own. Someone's following him with a bloody rig on their shoulders. What the hell are you talking about?
Yeah, a lot of programs are like that as well.
Hey, aren't they?
Yeah. We've been talking for like over 2 hours. So.
I know. I'm just gonna quickly kill it here. So then that brings us to debunkers, and some debunkers are better than other debunkers. And some debunkers, as Tash said earlier, just want to get the views on their channel. So there's quite a list. There's one that I'm going to highly rate because of his critical thinking, and that's I Am Kenny Biddle. And he works for the Skeptical Inquirer, and he used to be a paranormal investigator. And the longer you do this, I think the more skeptical you get.
Yeah.
To be quite honest with you. So he's definitely somebody I would recommend that you look up. There's another guy called The World of Mr. Gray. He's actually a video production or a video producer or a video production assistant. Anyway, does it for his full-time job. So he's very clever at picking up masking, glinting wires, cuts in the video, cutting joints, things like that. He's definitely worthy of watching. The rest of the four, Beardo Gets Scared, Mythos Paranormal, Side Eye Guy, and The Shape. I can't watch The Shape at all. I last 2 minutes and I have to shut him off. And I know Tasha's like this with Beardo Gets Scared. There's a lot of toxicity that the debunkers cause. Well, actually, no. There's a lot of toxicity that is thrown on the debunkers because they are debunking people's footage when people are saying, I've captured a ghost. And the people that are saying, I've captured a ghost are making a shit ton of money through YouTube and Patreons because people are watching their shit and believing in it. And debunkers are saying, it's crap. You're preying on the vulnerable. You're a piece of shit. I'm debunking you. And this is why it's crap. And then they put out their stuff. However,
I think like with Beardo, the thing is he said that I'd investigate all my friends, and then there's been cases where he has not and just been silent.
Agreed.
So that debunks the debunker. Like you will go and completely shit on other people's footage and say that it's all fake and blah blah blah, but you won't debunk your mate's videos. So to me, that tells me he's a content creator. He's not really a real debunker, even though he does debunk stuff. It's more for views. It's more for money in his pocket.
In that respect, I totally agree with you on that. And I think the example that could be brought to light there would be the Jason Horse scenario. And this, I was going to say, Sikorian Toady, but it's Satorian Cody.
Yes.
Situation, which is Jason Horse's daughter. Yeah, that whole fiasco. Absolutely, totally agree on that score. The other thing that I've seen with debunkers, I've seen them spout off a load of stuff, and it's not saying, look, there's a wire glint, and look, there's some masking here, or look, there's a cut in the video here, or notice how the sound comes from over there, but he doesn't pan the camera over in that area. It's none of that. What it is, how can I put it? It's the integrity behind what's being said. So if you're going to debunk all these people, then somebody that you know and that you're friendly with, and if they're connected with somebody else that screws up and shows themselves to be fake, then you need to call it. In fact, you have more of a responsibility to call that person because they're connected to you through somebody else than anybody else that's on creating content, paranormal content on YouTube at all, as far as I'm concerned.
Quite a lot of the content online, whether it be any social media, sometimes people just post stuff. They're like, "Oh, this is real paranormal." They don't necessarily say it's a ghost. It's the content creators that then, who do get the money, they're like, "Okay, yeah, there's a ghost caught on camera, or it's an orb, or whatnot." So the original video is like, "Hey, this is really weird. I don't know what it is." But you do come across a lot of the toxicity, mostly male, online when people post things, saying this is a really weird photo. I don't know why there's a guy in the window or whatnot, and they just attack people online, which is not on. I mean, I have gone online and people say, "Oh, this is orb and it's my grandmother," blah blah blah. But I'll respectfully say, no, that is either lens flare or it's dust. But they are so convinced that it is their grandmother visiting them or a dead relative that I just leave it. But then there's people, prominent people, that actually attack people online, whether it be on Facebook or Instagram or whatever. And it's just like, that's not cool. Say what you're going to say, leave it at that. That person you can't convince is anything different.
Exactly.
And it's, we could probably do a whole episode on
there's
social media.
There's no need to be nasty about anything. If you're going to put your opinion forward, whether it be educated, and it better be educated, because if it's uneducated, you're going to get your asshole ripped a new one. But hopefully it's an educated opinion. And if you're going to put that across and people aren't going to listen to you, then that's fine. Let them just go, okay, sweet. You believe what you want to believe, walk away. There's no need to belittle people. Just like there's no need to turn around and tell people that what they've experienced was not real.
Yeah. Because you're not there.
You're not there. Exactly, Tash. That was their personal experience. Who the hell are you to determine that it wasn't real? You could turn around and say, well, it sounds like hypnagogic or hypnopompic activity to me, i.e. you're waking up or you're falling asleep, whatever the case may be. But the point is, with regards to content creators, is that there's a reason why I have seen a lot of these debunkers. I've seen them and I've followed them for years. They start off really good. They've got great intentions, but it's like anything, power corrupts. They get a fan base. They start getting, oh my God, oh, you're fantastic. Oh, you're fantastic. Their egos go blow out, right?
Yeah, once they get the money.
Yeah. And then they completely
to the point, what I was saying before, that content creators, debunkers, as content creators, you can't really take what they say for real if you haven't seen the original footage and their footage side by side, because they're trying to make content to make money, to make more views as well. I'm not saying all the debunkers are like that, but the integrity of certain ones, it's been compromised. So I wouldn't put it past it.
I have also, and it's not just about footage, but I've also seen information completely twisted and regurgitated by debunkers and presented something, and what they've said about that particular team or that particular episode that team's put on YouTube or whatever the case may be, it's not true.
No,
it's just not true. And they've actually not done their research correctly.
Yeah.
And they've completely bastardized everything, regurgitated it. And I will think of one example, and you can say whatever you like about the people who are involved with it. You can say whatever you like about the fact that they're faking. That's not what whether or not they're faking or not, that's not what I'm talking about here. What I'm talking about is the information that was given out by a few debunkers that was completely and utterly incorrect. And they're talking about My Haunted Project, and they were talking about the hotel where everyone goes and they stay the night, and there's 24 there's cameras 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Everything's, like you're in your own little TV paranormal program type of thing. And they were saying that oh God, let me get this right. They were saying that the hotel is an absolute fake. The activity is an absolute fake. All of it's fake because that was actually, before it became a haunted hotel, it was ran as a haunted attraction. And it wasn't.
Yeah.
It was ran as a haunted attraction 1 year only on Halloween, and then it was 3 years later before it was turned into My Haunted Project, which wasn't a haunted attraction, and the concepts were completely different.
Yeah, I'm sort of being a devil's advocate and just saying there's a lot of miscommunication, as sometimes most people just take things as face value. You can't take what the debunkers say in face value unless you actually understand the topic, and even sometimes what they say is incorrect. Like, it's like, there's no way it could be that.
Exactly. And
it's just for views and content. And if it's all good and you just want to watch some entertainment, it's great, but it's also damaging to the teams that have captured the footage, because that's why most teams will not release footage, is because they'll get ripped by everybody, including debunkers, just so that they could get views. It's not necessarily it's fake. It's not necessarily not paranormal. It's just something that no one can explain, which is basically different.
Do you know what the thing is? It doesn't matter what you do. You're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. Because if you release something nowadays, because of the amount of people that have been faking, it's going to automatically be yelled at as being fake, right? Yeah. And because these debunkers are now in the frame and they are debunking people that are faking, that's great to try and keep the paranormal true. But at the same time, they're now starting to cross the line, and they're starting to rip holes in people who are actually not fake, and they're yelling them as being fake, and yet they don't have any proof of them as being fake. So yeah, I would say a great majority of the debunkers need to actually check their egos, stop thinking about their bank balance, shut their mouths, sit their asses down, and revert back to why they started this in the first place. As I said, there's only two debunkers I take any stock in at all, and one's Kenny Biddle and the other one's the World of Mr. Grey.
I think that people should not take anything in social media as face value. And
no, they shouldn't.
Vote with your feet. Unsubscribe if you don't agree with it. If they start to get aggressive and attack people online, just unsubscribe. Just don't deal with that negativity, because the more money they make, the more content they need to keep that money going up and the views going up. So the best way to kill them is best way not to kill them, but best way to cut off
their supply.
For example, Beardo, who will not investigate his mates, is to vote with your feet. Just don't subscribe to them anymore.
The other thing, talk about YouTube, I say YouTube is a paranormal cesspit, but then if you look at TikTok, you got to times that by 50. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm too old for TikTok. I would never download the TikTok app. I just have no time for people doing stupid dances and trying to get people make mustard gas and trying to do stupid stuff like charging phones in the microwave. Like, I mean, people just don't learn, and people have actually died.
I just can't with TikTok. Maybe it is an age thing, Tash, but I can't even with Instagram either, mate. I just can't be doing with Instagram, and I can't be doing with TikTok.
I don't mind Instagram because it's similar to Facebook, but again, you can't take anything that anyone says on social media face value, so you can call out me as bullshitting if you want, but I'm quite happy for people to, debate and ask, say, hey, what you said is not correct. But at the end of the day, TikTok is full of misinformation. TikTok is not something you should be watching in regards to your health, paranormal investigation, challenges. I think they've kind of stopped on the challenges now.
Oh, yeah, I think that's long gone now.
To me, it's just a waste of time, really.
Yeah, I agree. And like Tash said, you have to, it doesn't matter whether you're watching paranormal content or whether you're watching debunkers, you need to watch for flags, okay? Because if someone is making a shit ton of money off whatever they are doing on YouTube, they're not about to let that cash cow dry up, whether they're faking content or whether they're arguing about content being faked. Yeah. One or the other. They're not about to let that money dry up. But then in that respect, don't think that there isn't the odd bona fide bunch of investigators going out there and creating content at the same time on YouTube and doing it regularly, because there is. Whether or not they're legit or not, I don't know. I'm not professing to know that they are. All I'm saying to you is from what I've seen, because they don't capture shit. So they're not going, every bump, every knock, every,
that means you're actually investigating to a certain point. Like, I tried to watch Travel of the Dead, the Bob Mackie episode, and I just couldn't, because it was just, not.
I agree. I couldn't either.
It was just cool. We'll just.
I've actually tried twice now, Tash, and twice I've hung. Yeah, I went back to seconds and thought, nah, I just obviously didn't give it the chance before. But yeah, no, I can't sit through it.
I mean, when you do investigations like we have, we know what that is like, watching hours and hours of footage and nothing happening, or you're snoring while you sleep, that sort of thing. So, yeah,
and giggling at people farting in their sleep and all that type of thing. Yeah. We've done it thousands and thousands of hours of this crap. Honestly, so when did I start using video cameras seriously? Oh, geez. I know. Over a 25-year period, I am over watching videos of nothing. Absolutely nothing. And I'm watching this nothing frame by frame by frame. I'm not just pressing the play button and watching it through from start to finish, mate.
No.
Oh, Colette says, gosh, you want us to be sensible and think for ourselves.
Yeah.
Hell yes.
Yes,
it's called critical thinking.
Please do it. But you can't watch it on 2 times as fast and just have it on the background while you're doing something else. You have to actually analyze it properly. I not only analyze my stuff, but my partner does as well. So we have 2 different people looking at the same footage or listening to the same audio to get different perspectives on it. So there might be something I missed or something I picked up, which could be debunked because the camera showed someone shuffling or clicking a torch or whatever. So, yeah, critical thinking is important, shall we?
And we've said this before with the analysing, it'll take us. We do one investigation, and depending on how many cameras we're having to review, and keeping in mind that it's, as Tasha said, it's not only us reviewing them. We might review it and then we might pass it on to a second person in the group who then passes it on to a third person in the group. So we have 3 different perspectives on every single frame of that video before we make a judgment call on the fact of, oh, there's nothing in it. Do you know what I mean? And if we do find something anomalous, then that goes through maybe not 3 people, but then we'll farm it out to, I don't know, Stephen from Central Hawke's Bay Paranormal, and we'll ask him, what does he think of this? This is called peer review, and it's not done enough in the paranormal. But we'll share our footage between different paranormal teams to get a different perspective on what we're looking at. But this sort of thing happens all the time. And we've said this before. It could take us 6 weeks to get through one investigation and have everybody analyze their footage, the general team's footage. If you've got a DVR unit with team cameras that, you know, everybody's got to review. And it could take us 6 to 8 weeks to get through that and make a judgment call on the fact of, oh, we found nothing, or, oh, there's these 3 bits that we could deem as being anomalous. We can't really say one way or the other, but they're not
it's
right.
Not necessarily paranormal. That's
exactly. Yeah. It's not like, so we've said this before. We've said this when we were talking about analyzing footage. If you're going out every single week and you've got multiple cameras and then you're reviewing and you're putting out a analysis of your footage 2 weeks after you've been out with, say, 5 cameras and 4 audio recorders going for how many hours, then you have not analyzed your footage properly, because you can't do that.
So shall we end it on that? TikTok
Absolutely.
is great. Instagram is iffy. Most social media stuff is iffy.
I don't know. I'm going to rely on you with the Instagram stuff, because I don't really know much about the Instagram stuff.
I don't really watch any paranormal stuff on Instagram, to be honest.
No, I tell you what, though, YouTube is absolutely great for British documentaries that were on TV over the last 10 to 20 years and then have been put up on YouTube.
Yeah, it's not just that. There's a whole lot of lost content as well that they put up.
Yes,
like Something Murder, I don't think you can stream anymore. Ghost Hunt, whether it be paranormal or not. There's an Australian crime one that I really like. That
what's
really
the one
cool,
that I'm thinking? Oh, what's it called? Hang on, I think I wrote it down. Wait a minute. Did I write it down? Great British Ghosts.
Oh yeah, we watched that one.
If you have got Amazon Prime, now look, I have seen a few episodes shown on YouTube, but the picture, it might have been touched when we went from analog to digital. The picture is so bad, man. Yeah. And when I first watched this, I do not remember the picture being that bad, and I thought I watched it on YouTube, but I think I must have watched it on Amazon Prime, where obviously the picture is a hell of a lot better than YouTube. So if you've got Amazon Prime, watch it.
The picture format was different. The picture format was different. There was like one particular, I'm trying to remember the ratio, I can't remember what it is. So when you put it on a big screen, it looks absolutely horrific.
Hey, I had it on
ratio.
Mate, I had it on my laptop. It looked horrific when I looked at it on YouTube the other night. And when I'm watching it, I'm like, when I watched this whole series, it did not look like this. So I can't have watched it on YouTube. So I did some more searching, and then I found out that apparently it's on Amazon Prime. But it must have been on Amazon Prime in New Zealand, because I did not sit through a whole program. Yeah. And I went through episode after episode after episode. I did not watch that like that, I'm telling you now, because I thoroughly enjoyed it. The other one that is supposedly on Amazon Prime is Death Walker.
Okay.
With Nick Groff in it. That's Nick Groff's new one.
Yeah, I haven't watched that one.
The thing is, what they say that is on Amazon Prime and what we get on Amazon Prime in New Zealand are 2 entirely different things.
Not if you have a VPN.
I don't have a VPN.
But
got-
anyway, shall we
Yeah.
leave it?
We're going to leave it at that. But yes, Colette, please be sensible and think for yourselves. I mean, I know you are anyway, but yeah, that's mainly what we're trying to get across. It's all well and good. Paranormal entertainment's great. But, you know, the stuff that they're using, they're not using it in the right way half the time, especially if you're...
It's basically just, most of it's entertainment.
Yeah, it is. It is. And if there's ever a disclosure that's put up for entertainment purposes, that's your bang to rights, that you can guarantee that the shit that they're getting is just bullshit. It's just bullshit. So enjoy, but take it for what it is. Oh, poo, she says. Take it for what it is, guys. Enjoy it and take it for what it is, but it's not real paranormal investigating and it's not real evidence. All righty.
Yep.
And
All
next
right.
week, Barbara will hopefully be back with us. And we're going to be looking at supposedly the UK's most, or should I say England's most haunted village. The stories behind their ghosts, the legends that surround the village, and the truth behind those stories. So we'll see you next week. And I think we're doing another live next week. I can't remember.
I think it was.
Yep. Okay, cool. We'll go with Tash. So another live next week for that. Nice to see you, Stephen. Nice to see you, Colette. See you all next episode. That's what I like to hear, Stephen. Love you, long time being in here every week without fail. We really appreciate your support. Thank you so much. And we'll see you next Friday, 8 p.m, where we talk about England's most haunted village. And I'll have some pictures for you as well. All righty, guys. Have a good week. Bye, boy. Bye, Kalia.